Never judge a book by its cover.
興奮しちゃうじゃないか。
Well, sometimes you should, but in most cases you shouldn't. And one of the biggest 180-degree a character has ever made is most definitely Unohana Retsu in Bleach. The solemn-looking captain who always seemed to hide more than she would let on, revealed her crazy true form in the 1000-year Blood War arc. And you won't even believe me if I told you she was stronger than the captain of Soul Society's most overpowered squad, Zaraki Kenpachi.
No way!
In fact, what if I told you she is Kenpachi? Welcome back everyone, it's time to go deep into unraveling the story and mystery behind the captain of the 4th squad, Retsu Unohana herself, a Shinigami whose Bankai will make you shit bricks, because under all the facade, Unohana just might be the most horrific person in this entire series, holding a dark past so terrifying that even her peers, Kyoraku and Ukitake, who were the star students of Captain Commander Yamamoto, are actually scared of her ruthlessness. But this revelation actually came to us in a shock, as Unohana's character was always cloaked in mystery. From the very start of the series, she was shown as an exemplary captain of the 4th division, being quite a gentle soul who is well respected by her squad members. Since the 4th division is responsible for health, safety and other secondary tasks for Soul Society, Unohana's nature reflects the same. Kind of like Mother Teresa, Unohana is a non-discriminatory Shinigami who aids anyone who needs her and her division's help. In fact, leaving aside Squad Zero's Tenjiro Kirinji, Unohana is the best healer within Soul Society and is also one of the oldest Gotei 13 captains, aside from Kyoraku and Ukitake obviously. Those guys are old. Though they both refer to Unohana as Senpai, telling us that she is their senior. However, as kind as she is, Unohana is also quick to abide by the laws of Soul Society and is stringent against people who break them. For example, she was swift to dismiss Aizen as a treacherous reprobate and reprimanded Hanataro for helping the Ryuka who had harmed Soul Society. With that in mind, there's no doubt about how much of an asset she is, as Unohana is also seen as being immensely perceptive of all events and even how they link with each other, something others easily miss out on. Yes, let's not forget she was one of the few people who understood why the Captain Commander Yamamoto decided to lie to Rukia right before her execution that her friends will be saved. Isani thought it was cruel, but Unohana knew it was Yamamoto's way of letting Rukia pass away peacefully. However, Unohana's true level of intelligence is showcased when she examines Aizen's body after his supposed death. Looking at it, she immediately noted that something was off. And we all know that her hunch was correct. Following the commotion at Tsokyoku, Unohana made her way to Central 46, where she found the culprit Aizen alive and well, as she had anticipated. She was observant enough to know that the best hiding place for a criminal like Aizen's caliber would be in Central 46, where nobody enters without permission. What's more is that she even laid out Aizen's entire plan up to the point with only the most minor errors due to Aizen's Zanpakutō Kyoka Soigetsu's power. By doing so, Unohana was also the first person to whom Aizen revealed the powers of his Zanpakutō, which was complete hypnosis. But rather than getting shaken up by this, Unohana's first course of action was to command Isane into communicating the information to everyone else. But that's not all, guys. Her perceptive insight was depicted throughout the series. Like, even whilst returning from Hyukomundo to the fake Karakura town, she was able to gauge that Ichigo was at captain level. When Ichigo informed her that he was only using half of his powers, she immediately resorted to healing him whilst traveling, concluding that he was their one and only hope at winning the fight against Aizen. And well, she was right. Not just because Ichigo is, the protagonist, but because he was also the only one who wasn't under the hypnosis of Aizen's Zanpakutō. we can see that Unohana's actions and decisions are very logical and strategic for someone who is simply just in charge of the support department. And the answer to these seemingly opposite characteristics lies in her past. Yep, we have to rewind and go back 1,000 years.
Stop right there!
Before becoming the captain of the 4th division, Unohana led another division that was the complete opposite. Believe it or not, Unohana was the first leader and founder of the barbaric Division 11, and also the first person to ever carry the name Kenpachi.
This is not right. This is not cool.
Yep, you heard that right. Unohana's true name is Yachiro Kenpachi, which is also the origins for Zaraki and his lieutenant's name. Remember guys, Kenpachi alongside Yachiro didn't have names to begin with. The reason why he took her name was because Unohana is in fact the only person he looked up to and admired. Why? Well, after literally destroying every enemy he came across, as a scrawny little kid mind you, Unohana was the only one who was able to finally stop him and beat the crap out of the boy. He was out of control, right? He was out of control. But seriously, she literally became a mom and threw the slippers at the boy. And you're probably wondering how. Unohana's always smiling and looking so innocent. Well, because Unohana was no saint like she masquerades to be. But instead, she was once the most notorious and wanted criminal of Soul Society.
I have no knowledge of any of this.
Which is so ironic considering how duty-driven and soft-spoken she is now. Yep, I was confused too, but you never judge a book by its cover. And as a criminal, Unohana was extremely bloodthirsty and violent, looking for stronger and stronger opponents to wield her sword against. Just like the Kenpachi we know today. She also wanted to savor all her fights to the very end as long as possible. She even named herself Yachiro, meaning 8,000 styles, to signify her mastery of the sword and countless other styles. It's safe to say that she was a force to be reckoned with. But at some point, Captain Commander Yamamoto recruited her to be in Gotei 13, where she then founded the 11th Squad. In fact, according to Yuhaba, the original Gotei 13 during this time were defenders in name only and comprised nothing less than a brutal mob of killers. And since back then, even Yamamoto was a brutal pragmatic leader who held his subordinates as expendable. Unohana fitted right into this cold-blooded force, which also speaks a lot about Yamamoto's ruthlessness, as he was the only reason Unohana was compliant. However, this is why not just Unohana's subordinates but also her co-captains feared her. The only person other than the Gotei 13 we saw come close to even hurting Unohana was none other than the stray child, Zaraki, with his insane skills. And when they did cross swords, Zaraki landed the one and only wound turned scar on Unohana's body. Though she was the first ever person to give Kenpachi some parental beatings, she was taken aback by his latent strength, and even though she proceeded to become a calm and more gentle captain on the surface, she remembered her clash with Kenpachi very well. She even thought that she was stronger than anyone except him, and in a way, another clash between them was destined. But what is it that really makes Unohana so dangerous that only Zaraki Kenpachi could compare to her? Well, first of all, she has a bunch of ridiculous abilities to be wary of. Unohana is a master of complex Kido techniques and uses high-level Hado and Bokudo spells without incantation, which is a huge achievement. From her past, it was more than evident that Unohana is an insane swords wielder too, where most people would find it extremely difficult to hold their ground up against her. Kenpachi, being a prodigy, was able to cut down many men, but he could not best Unohana. Instead, he received a nasty scar on his face for life. Yep, that was her. Never thought you'd be scared of her, huh? Well, gosh damn. What's even more scarier about Unohana is that although her Zanpakutō, Minazuki, is quite unique, being totally opposite to Unohana's original volatile nature, in its sealed form, it looks like a simple katana. But when she calls upon it, it turns into a freaking ginormous manta ray fish. Like, I can't be the only one who thinks this. Come on, look at it.
What the fuck is this?
Good lord.
Anyways, her Shikai manta ray type creature has quite a few powers of its own. The large size of Minazuki helps Unohana store people in its belly, which flows with healing medicines and ointments. This is kind of similar to how Nemu's body is filled with different kinds of concoctions created by Mayuri, but in Minazuki's case, anyone within its stomach is completely healed. Oh, and did I mention it can also fly and act as a transportation device? Unohana basically has a full-on Pokemon at her disposal at any time, but just like the Unohana personality, her Zanpakutō has a much deeper layer. Because its Bankai is totally opposite to its Shikai in the way that even a single touch from it, rather than healing, is absolutely lethal. While this Bankai's name is Minazuki as well, it's so fatal that we have seen it only once in the entire series. Now, there isn't a lot of information to go on this Bankai, but the kanji for the Bankai translates to all things end, making it a huge hint to its broken powers. In this Bankai, most of the blades of Minazuki transform into a stream of blood-like liquid which oozes out of the surroundings. The remainder of the blade turns into a short katana for combat. The liquid from Minazuki is an extremely deadly acid that dissolves anything or anyone it touches within seconds. Even someone like Kenpachi, whose body is sturdy to the point that Ichigo couldn't even make a cut on it, he got dissolved down to his skeleton in mere seconds. In fact, this acid is so potent that it even harms Unohana herself, melting her flesh away, leaving nothing but bones. Due to her insane proficiency in Kido, she is able to heal before incurring life-threatening damage, coming back from the verge of death itself. To be honest, Unohana is actually more twisted than we think, as the very reason she mastered this ability of healing, who she learned from Tenjiro of Squad Zero, is a very selfish ode to her barbaric nature. Being so freakishly strong as she is, she was always on the lookout for someone to challenge her strength and give her the thrill of battle that she loved. But everyone she came across was too easy to defeat and would die too quickly to satisfy her thirst. That is until she learned Kido and started using these techniques to prolong her fights by instantly healing her opponents until she was content.
Hey yo, what the fuck?
Bruh, now we know why she is such an expert at healing people. It's very hard to believe, but the true face of Unohana only came to the surface in the 1000-Year Blood War arc, when she was ordered by Kyoraku, the new captain commander, to train, or rather battle to death with Kenpachi Zaraki. Since Kyoraku had most definitely seen Unohana on her rampage, this was the first time someone acknowledged her true name, effectively telling her to fully unleash her violent side. This decision was to bring forth Kenpachi Zaraki's hidden powers that he had subconsciously restrained in the fear of surpassing Unohana herself. Kenpachi had limited himself, thinking that if he became stronger than Unohana, he would lose the only person he could call his true enemy, someone who enjoyed a thrilling battle as much as him, like dancing on the verge of death. It all goes back to their first battle, when Unohana was looking for strong people to fight in the pretense of maintaining peace in the Rukon district. However, there was nobody who could satisfy her hunger of battle. It was only then that her lieutenant drew her attention towards a mound of corpses, thinking that it was her doing. But it wasn't, because the culprit was actually Kenpachi. Unohana was surprised when a kid jumped at her and fought with such vigor that they both experienced pure enthralling joy from it. They were bored with the fighting until they found each other, because they were literally soulmates in the most unromantic way possible. Once Kenpachi tasted the high of such a battle, he found everyone else weak to the point that his growth began to stagnate because he only grew through each battle he survived, just like Ichigo. He put mental restraints on himself, which is the only reason why he lost to Ichigo and barely won against Noitora in the first place, as Unohana noted. So she came to the realization that as Kenpachi was fighting stronger enemies, he was slowly unlocking his powers, which started to grow again. But the only way for him to fully unrestrain himself was for Unohana to go all out, killing and reviving him hundreds of times to push him into a corner. Only she could do that due to her mastery of Kaido. In a way, she thought of it as repentance, as it was her sin of unintentionally stopping Kenpachi's growth, just because she was weaker than him. However, the underlying implication of Kyoraku's order was that one of these two Kenpachis had to die in battle. Battle befitting, as Unohana called it, two non-criminals. They were too strong, which is why they weren't criminals, but instead, they were captains of the Gotei 13. If they lost, they would revert back to a mere lawbreaker. Unohana quickly realized that Kenpachi had grown far too strong for her to fight normally with just her sword. This forced Unohana into using her Bankai Minazuki, whose acid corroded both their skins over and over while she kept healing and reviving Kenpachi. Even though she sensed his multiple deaths, he would still be alive in this bare bones fight, literally bare bones because their skins are melting. This was a clash of dreams for both Kenpachi and Unohana, because only while fighting each other to death could they feel the most alive, just like they had in their first battle. It was in this fight when Unohana's sword pointed at him that she deemed him to be worthy of the title Kenpachi. It was simply fate, where there could only be one Kenpachi in any era because the stronger would eliminate the other, or in this case, nurture the next strongest. Kenpachi was the only man who had ever brought Unohana the joy she had looked for, and it was only right for her to bid farewell by his hands. Kenpachi had overcome his own self and become the monster he was supposed to be, marking the end of Unohana's duties. These complex emotions that Kenpachi and Unohana shared over the battle could only be understood by them alone. Even after landing a fatal blow to her, Kenpachi cried over her like a child because he had lost the source of his admiration. She was like a mother to him in a twisted sense. As a battle-hungry person that Kenpachi is, growth is everything he craves. But Unohana still found it amusing, as Kenpachi had much stronger enemies to fight in her place. Thus, she passed away after unleashing the beast inside of Kenpachi. Like, this is such a sad moment, but I would have loved to see her fight more, man. I guess this was it, huh? You guys thought it was over? Well, not yet. Guess Kubo heard our prayers, because we see Unohana make a return in the Hell arc. Apparently, 12 years after she had died, the Gotei 13 captains performed a ceremony called Konsoresai before her grave. It was to allow the reishi comprising her body to return to the soil, but plot twist, this ceremony actually cast Unohana into Hell, where she gained the title of Death Sword. So someday, if Kubo hears any more of our prayers, we can see Unohana in action once again. But for now, this was it about the first Kenpachi of the Soul Society. If you liked the video, hit that like button, all that stuff. Make sure to check out the Kenpachi video where we explain how he was able to defeat Unohana. He goes full on demon mode. Like, this dude is unstoppable. Legit demon.